This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to Power Producers Shop Talk, where we are refining and redefining the sales game, and we are continuing our series on CRM with the one, the only, Mr. David LeFevre from Sales Power, SalesPWR.com, the in-house resident expert at Florida Risk Partners and how we get things done when it comes to CRM. And we're going to pick up the conversation right where we left off last time, and I'm giving you the floor, David, because if I start, probably won't stop.
That's all right. Appreciate that. So last time we talked about data related to contacts, companies, and, what do you want to capture? What do you want to see? But, what really makes the CRM work for the business itself is being able to create a picture of what's going on with the data. So you want to be able to see your leads. You want to be able to see the prospects that you're talking to. You want to be able to see the deals that are in process. You want to be able to know what those deals are worth. So, along with that, how many kids do they have? What's their name? What's their email address? What's their phone number? You want to be able to capture and figure out how to segment your contacts into groups that help you understand where they're at and who they are. So if you're working with, again, and you can make it match your existing process, you don't have to go and plug into something that's already there. So, if you've got you currently define yourself as leads, prospects, and clients, that's great, easy to do. But maybe you have different kinds of prospects and they're grouped differently. Maybe I have, I have dealership prospects, I have manufacturing prospects, I have, office supply prospects, however you want to segment them. You want to be able to take that information and create views to help you understand where things are at. How long has somebody been talking to a prospect without a deal or without an opportunity being there? So as you think about your CRM, you also want to think about, and what really makes a CRM work is how you look at the information and the views that you have. It's all about lists, all about views, and being able to ask yourself the question, I wonder what, and be able to, with one click of a button, get an answer without having to go and do math, without having to go and pull a spreadsheet and sort and organize. You just go click, there's my answer. How many calls did we make last week as a company? Click. How many emails did we send out to prospects? Click. All that information needs to be available for you as you're running your business. That's important to you as an owner, as a salesperson too, because you want to see what you're doing, what you're producing. How many calls did I do last week? Well, I think I did, 25. Well, let's click the button and find out for real what you did, because it should all be documented. Hopefully it's integrated with a phone system, so every call you make is being captured automatically and you don't have to type anything in. But if you do, it still should be easy to do. It's documented, it's there, and you're able to, gauge production, you're able to measure productivity, and you'll be able to, see what's going on, as well as, what do you got to work with? A simple thing as, what should I be doing today? Well, let me click here and see my active tasks. There's the 15 things that are on the top of my list that I established over the past, 6 months that said, here's the tasks I should be working on. Some of those might have just popped up today for the first time because we talked about that prospect last time that said, I just went with somebody else, and now your job is to touch base with them 6 months later, and you set that task 6 months ago, and it popped up today, and now it's on your list to do, and it's in front of you. You want to be able to create that productivity and that performance improvement by just being able to click things, and those views are the way you do that.
So here's
And
a
we've done
question.
that. I mean, that's one thing that we've done in HubSpot is we made it really easy for you guys to be able to go, show me who we did drops for, click. Show me who I have to do drops for, click.
Who
And
is
it's just a
Marvin
button
calling
away.
today? Click.
There you go. Who's Marvin calling? Who has Marvin set up appointments for me? Who has he been able to reach? All those questions. If you've got a question and it's something you continually ask, make it a button. Just make it a view, make it a list, something that you can just go click and get the answer that you want whenever you want it. You don't have to wait on anybody else. If you're the owner, you can just do it whenever you want. You don't have to ask somebody to deliver this thing to you because it's right there for you to get. And then of course you can drill down into it and see more detailed information if you want to, but that really is what makes it work. And where these custom CRMs come in, because you're building it to match what you do in your business, and a lot of people can't think of that right away. You have to go over time, and it eventually starts to come out because you're asking the same person to do the same thing 10 times. Why should I do that? Why not just create a list, create a view, create a query so you can pull it up anytime you want? You don't need to ask me anymore. That's huge, right?
So I have a quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to like stages or steps in the sales process or categories or whatever. How much is too much? I know that I've got agency friends out there that are very, very granular, right? Like they want to know every single little step along the way and progression. But at some point, it's paralysis by analysis. So, what do you think? I mean, for us, it's really pretty simple. It's lead, suspect, prospect, and then closed won or closed lost.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that on a different podcast. There may be some room to expand on that a little bit, but at what point do you draw the line?
Well, there's another one, right? I look at it's, incremental progress is better than postponed perfection. Bernie Borges, right? That was his,
Oh, yeah.
and he taught me that. And David, I know you've heard that too. And, it applies here completely. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with so much detail that you get lost. It's nice to have information. Don't get me wrong. It's great to have that information at your fingertips, but you always have to judge whether it's a one-off, whether it's a nice to have, or whether it's integral to your business process. And so I wouldn't say don't do it, but I would say, proceed with caution if you're going to, as you start to look at the minutia, because every keystrokes matter at the end of the day. They add up, and every time you ask for something new, or you ask for a piece of data, that somebody's got to put it in there, and that takes time, and it's time away from somebody else, and it may seem like it's not much at the time, but you multiply it out over a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and all of a sudden you realize it's just like those little, Netflix payments. So it's only $12 a month. Well, that's $240 a year. That's $1,000 over 4 years. Click, 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 click. It starts to add up a lot, and or any of those type of subscriptions. So you always want to think about and ask yourself, is it really necessary to the business of my production, of my performance? And for me being able to make business decisions, as an owner, you want to be able to decide on things on the fly based upon where you're at. How many opportunities do we have in the pipeline? Where are they in the pipeline? That's important stuff. But if I want to know, well, how many people do we have in zip code, 33604? You know, that's probably something that you don't need to build a special view for, because it's something you're going to ask once every 6 months.
Right.
Yeah,
You
you
just
can
go in and
change it. You
filter,
could
you
just
filter it.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
just
I was
lots of
gonna
ways
say,
to
I
look
mean,
at it.
obviously being 33, I don't have as much experience as other people, but in my experience, I've always found that the simpler things are, the better. I mean, once you start kind of overcomplicating things, that's when it starts to become, especially in the sales process. You
Like
know,
shaving is very complicated for
It,
you,
it's
obviously.
it's what's important to your business. So we're talking, for us, workers' comp date, right? Workers' comp expiration date. The most important, well, one of the most important pieces of data we need, because we drive so much activity around it. And so, David, we built these processes where, we know when somebody's expiration date is 6 months ahead, we should be talking about a certain topic. And so, that's critical. And it's something that you can't go without putting it in there. If you're going to go prospect a client, if you're going to go or prospect a business, you've got to take the time to pull that in and put it in there. You can't proceed
Listen,
without
and
it.
there's a
So,
reason. There's a reason why we do that, and I want everybody to understand that. It's because it's at our fingertips in Florida. It's free for public domain. We can pull the workers' comp X date and the carrier of literally any company in the state that has workers' comp. So it's very easy for us to drive our processes off of that, because it's a known quantity. We know what it is, and also, I don't know what the real statistics are. It would probably be interesting to figure out, but I would bet that at least 60, maybe as high as 75%.
I thought you were going 67. That's always your go-to.
67. 60 maybe is
67%.
high. I'm going to give you a range. 60 to 75% of the companies that are out there, have all of their policies renewing at the same time. Workers' comp is not always with the others, but I like my chances when it comes to that stuff. So that's why we do it. It's not that that's the right way or the only way. If you've got access to information, maybe you use a service like insurancexdates.com, or maybe you're using another online database that has X date information in it. Just because I'm using comp doesn't mean you need to. There's no theory or science behind it, other than it's free. And if it's free, it's for me. If
It's just an
true,
easy point of entry.
I'll
for
take
us.
two.
yeah, there you go. Well, and so, but everybody's different in what's critical. So if you got a sales team that's that targets prospects based upon geography, zip codes, counties, whatever it might be, that's an integral piece of data to your business, because it's how you divide up your leads. It's how you divide up your prospects. And so you can't go forward without that. You have to have it. So that's what I was getting at. What's critical to your business, you need to capture and you need to utilize, so you can build around it. But if it's a nice to have, it's a decision you've got to make. And far too often people will want more. I want to have all the policy information I can possibly have. Well, that's great, but when do you need it by? Where does that go in the system? How is that there? Do you want to have that as you're trying to, engage a prospect for the first time? Or do you really need that prior to you going into your first meeting that you've set up? When does that have to happen? And how much time and effort are you going to spend in trying to pull that data, put that information in there, and then build your queries around it and your views around it? You just don't.
I think a little bit of it's trial and error too. Like I think we talked about on one of the other episodes we recorded when we first started talking about this, that initially we had so much data and information that we were trying to fit in there, and we kind of did that for a few weeks, and then we were like, hey, hang on a second, dude. We don't need X, Y, and Z. And so we trimmed it up a little bit and found something that works for us. And you're just going to have to go through that process.
Yeah, and that's, now that I've been in insurance for basically doing insurance stuff for 2.5 years, I get it.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time. I'm like, all right, let's just pile it all in there as much as we can. We need this, we need this, we need that. And at the end of the day, turns out you don't. So therefore, yeah, going forward, you want to, there's certain things that you're going to be important to your business and your agency, and other things that are not. And you want to define that. But, the same applies with your sales pipelines. So, how do you do that? How do you organize that? Typically with these call them higher end CRMs, you have the opportunity to build multiple sales pipelines in order so you can see your prospects as, based upon some sort of category. Am I looking at, manufacturers versus plumbers, and, versus electricians, versus
or in
people
the
that came
agency
in
world,
through a different way,
in the agency world, commercial versus personal, or for us, we've also done commercial versus personal generated from YouTube ads, right?
Correct.
I mean,
Yep.
we had very specific reasons why, or pipelines that we set up because we were measuring, very specific advertising activity and other things, and I wanted to see kind of a few things. Number one, what's the velocity? How quickly is something having to move through the pipeline? What's the I mean, dude, I can remember when we set up the personalized pipeline, it actually scrolled left to right further than it scrolled top to bottom because there were so many flipping stages in there. We were caught in a vortex of never-ending, revision.
It was like 15 different stages, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so, I mean, we were wanting to measure that, but the more I get into it, to Kyle's point, it's like, okay, how much is too much to measure, for crying out loud?
Right.
If we notice that there's a problem, I can understand if you see people falling off at a certain stage of a process or whatever. Okay, let's put some more definition around that. Exactly what part of that process are they falling off? Maybe you put a couple of sub-stages in there at that point to see if you can determine what's causing it. But keep it simple, people. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. Well, in going to that, you were moving a deal, essentially went through as you were closing it, as you were doing quotes. You had multiple people touching that opportunity. And so that was part of that, knowing where it was at, and that's what we built around. But as we moved on from that, we were able to switch it up. So essentially, looking at it a different way, regardless of who's touching the opportunity, who's who's doing the quoting. We just the stage is the stage is the stage, no matter who's working on it. And that's really changed. That really changed it up. So
and teach people to leave notes, right? I mean, that's it. Just okay, the deal's stuck in this stage. Let me click on it for a second. Oh, this is where it's at. We did da-da-da-da. We do it in an agency management system. We should do it in a CRM too. Well, listen, we're pretty much out of time for this episode, so I want to wrap this one up. We're going to do at least 2 more of these. I can tell you, possibly 8. Who knows?
Just do a best of 7 series.
Yeah, but it's between 6 and 8. I'm with you. It's kind of like 67%.
67% of all the mods that come out from NCCI or.
Yeah, absolutely. Good deal. Well, listen, everybody have a great weekend. We hope you're enjoying this. As always, we want to give you content that you want to hear. And the whole reason we're doing this is I had several people reach out and say, hey, talk more about CRM. Give some explanation here. It's virgin ground for the agency world. Not very many agencies do have CRMs, and the ones who do, it is the out-of-the-box stuff. And so this is a different conversation. And if you've heard anything at all today, you've heard a lot of mistakes that we made. And guess what? There's a reason why I'm telling you that Mr. LeFevre learned to shave on my face, right? You get the benefit of him knowing this stuff now. And that's not a knock on him in any way, shape, or form. I brought him in for his talent with CRM, knowing I had to get him acclimated to the insurance industry. Well, guess what? Now he is, and if you need him, you need to go to salespower.com, SALESPWR.com. And while you're floating around the internet, how about leaving old Dave and Kyle a nice little review on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to this. We would appreciate your subscription and a little pat on the back if you don't mind. And if you don't like it, you can leave that that too. That's okay. Most of the people who do
we'll
that
just
stuff
delete
do
it, whatever.
anonymously. Yeah, they do it anonymously. So I mean,
No,
whatever.
so hey, I've got an idea, and I mean, you probably get emails all the time, and with questions, and I'm sure we've answered some of them. But I feel like it would be good if people did have specific questions that we could get on and answer if they want to reach out and email us what those questions
I got
are.
a better idea than that. How about we just wrap this whole series up with a live podcast recording where they can come on and ask their questions? We have that capability.
Cool.
Never used it. Got a couple weeks to try and figure it out. But
Put us
know,
on the
whatever.
spot. Woohoo!
Yeah, absolutely. We'll figure it
That
out.
works too.
Anyhow, everybody have a great weekend. We will catch you next week. See ya.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.